morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're looking back at this video. We actually wanted to take a break from our regularly scheduled sessions, the Board Bootcamp. And since it's tax season, we're all in the thick of things right now. We wanted to give you some tax tips as a side to our sessions. And we'll be back to those sessions in a few weeks, but we just wanted to give you some tips for tax season that we're in right now. All right, so the first item is a very good one. Knowing what type of Form 990 to file is a very important aspect of our nonprofits as filers. And the reason why is because depending on which one you are required to file will tell you the amount of time that you're going to have to spend or the cost that you're going to have to incur for an outside party, a tax professional, CPA to do it. So just to give you the different types of Form 990s, there's a 990PF, and I'm just going to say this outright because it's the first one. It's not really related to all the normal, we'll say, 990s, but it's a 990 specifically for private foundations. So that's the 990 that private foundations will file. So if you are a private foundation, you're not going to file these other returns or these other 990s that I'm about to state. You will be filing a specific type of 990 known as the 990PF or 990 private foundation. There is the 990N. That is the one that everybody prays for. That's the 990 that everybody loves to, hey, we get to file a 990N. The reason why is because that's known as a postcard. And it's really just an informational return. You know, the organization's name, the EIN number, a few other things on there. But it doesn't really get into the heavy stuff of the financial, juggernaut of activity that has occurred in that 990 or in that organization for the year. It just gets into, hey, we just need your information, basic things about the nonprofit, and you're good to go. And you file it, you're good. Why is that? Why are they not requiring them to give a whole bunch of financial information? It's because of the amount of resources that these organizations typically have. Organizations that are allowed to file Form 990Ns or postcards are typically nonprofits that generate, I want to say, under $50,000 in a given year in donations, contributions, or whatever other types of outside resources that they bring in. And they also are organizations that have, assets that are, I want to say, and I might be fudging this number a little bit, I want to say the assets are under $500,000, I want to say. It might be lower than that though, but I know it's a low asset threshold and definitely a low revenue threshold. When I say revenue, I'm talking about donations, contributions, grants, federal and state grants, things of that nature. So that's what gives postcards their ability to just, hey, information and you're good to go. The next step up from that is a 990EZ. So now you all might know what EZ means if you have a 1040 EZ, all this kind of easy stuff. It's an easier form of the regular 990 basically. So it's you still have to do, it's a step up now, a step up from the 990N. So it's a step up from that, meaning that you're going to have to procure, a professional, tax professional, a CPA, or whomever, or you internally, as a board, need to spend more time or energy, more information needs to be provided on the 990EZ, but not as much as the 990N. Still, they want to see the activity financially, what your balance sheet looks like. They want to see all the information, but not as much as what you would have to report for a 990N. Now, the step up from that is, or 990 full blown, a 990. So the 990, just a regular 990, is a step up from the 990EZ. And the 990 is if I can use it, I'm not going to use that word. It wasn't a cuss word, but it was just like a fatty word. But it's a juggernaut of a statement, of a return. And you need all of your financial data. You need all of your operating information for the year. We can say qualitative and quantitative needs to go on that return. So it's a big return, and those are the different types. And knowing what type you have to find is important, because the big one, the most time, the most resources, the most financial capital you have to expend to get them done. Right below that is the easy, and below that is the N, and then again the 990 PF is in this whole category. So those are the different types of returns that you need to understand that you might have to file. Okay, so the next tip is to address the fiscal year. So knowing your fiscal year is important, and it's really important, especially if you're a new nonprofit. It's really important for you. And the reason why is because this issue is not just exclusive to nonprofits, but nonprofits deal with it more so than for-profits. And for-profits have, we have, a few non-for-profits that fall into this category as well. But nonprofits tend not to follow. Some of them do, but a lot of them tend not to follow the standard calendar year as their fiscal year. A lot of nonprofits follow a government type of calendar of fiscal year. So meaning that they end their operations on June 30th of a given year. They start their activity on July 1st, and that's their fiscal year. And some have different other types of fiscal years, but knowing that as you as a nonprofit is important, because your tax return, the form that you're going to have to file, will be driven by what that date is. I mean, if you're a June 30th year ender, you don't have to stress out like everybody's stressing out right now for the March 15th or the April whatever. You're good. June, so you don't have to do it until September, October sometime, right? So knowing that is very vital and it's important. All right, this tip it's important. It's very important, especially those of you who have, I'll say 990 EZs or 990 full-blown 990s to prepare, and 990 PFs. Preparing your board for that process is very important. The reason why is because there's information, especially with the full-blown 990, there's information that needs to go on different sections. Schedule O, what's our mission, what's our operating activities, our programs, can you describe them? That information needs to go. What's our primary program for this particular year that just passed? What did we get our hands involved in this year concerning our activity as a nonprofit? That needs to go on the 990. Who we are, like, do we have board members that dropped off? Do we have board members that were added on? Do we need to update that list? Again, information that goes on the 990. You have a series of questions that you have to go through as a board that need to be addressed, and it takes time to address them. So again, preparing your board for that process, even if it's as simple as, hey, we need to make some time, to have these board meetings. Maybe, and maybe you have like an hour meeting every month or every quarter. You just say, no, we got a 990 to do, so we need to maybe slate out coffee, lunch, weekend, 5 hours, on Saturday to get some of that stuff done. You've got to prepare your board for that process. So that would be something that's important, and it's because we talked about this in the boot camp sessions, every board member needs to know or be aware of the information that's on that return. Why? Because they're responsible for it. All right, so this tip is important, and it's important because in the last tip before last, we stated that it's important for a nonprofit to be aware of its fiscal year end. So knowing that quite a few nonprofits, let me just be honest, quite a few nonprofits follow a governmental calendar or fiscal year. I shouldn't say calendar, but fiscal year. And that is a June 30th year end. So a June 30th year end means that I don't need to worry about my 990 to be filed until maybe September, October, if I get to do an extension, maybe somewhere in November, December or whatever. But if I know that I don't have to file until that late stage of the year, do I have any other information that I need to report? And the answer is yes. So it doesn't matter that your tax return is not due until a late month of the year. You still are responsible for the W-2s you have to submit, based on the IRS's requirements, the due dates that the IRS has given us, and they give us these things every year. Typically it's like January 31st. Sometimes they kind of let us slip into the February time frame, but typically it's January 30th, 31st, something like that. That needs to be submitted. All 1099s need to be issued out of your department, your organization, to whoever the contractors they're going to by those dates as well. I believe it's January 31st as well. So that's important to stay on top of those items. Even though you may not have to file with everyone else who is a calendar year organization, you still have to submit all the other items that those people would need to file their taxes, right? And they are, if they're individuals, they don't have that luxury to go outside of the calendar year. They are stuck with the calendar year, so their business, they may have to file March 15th. If they're an individual, they're going to have to file April 15th or 18th, depending on if it falls on the weekend. But yeah, so that's important to know. Hey, I still have these other things, and there are other things besides the W-2 and the 1099. Just being aware that there may be some items that I got to file, even though my tax return is not due until way later this year. I still have to be aware of these other items that I need to submit documentation for. This last item, I believe, is probably the most important item to most nonprofits. We'll say most nonprofits, but some nonprofits receive a great majority of their funding from one particular source. And that source could be the federal government, that could be the state government, but for most of us, all of us, nonprofits that are out there, a lot of our funding comes from donors, contributors, endowments, in private individuals, private families, private shops that donate. They contribute different amounts to us. This last item deals with keeping a record of all your donors, your contributors that have given a substantial amount. What is that? So the IRS identifies a substantial amount donated as $250 or more. What is that about? They would like organizations, nonprofits, to put into practice sending letters, acknowledgement letters out to these donors who give $250 or more in donations to various nonprofits. Nonprofits, you may have, we gave, somebody donated to us this, and this, okay, oh my goodness, we didn't give the letter. Don't stress out. My suggestion to you all is to make sure, because it's not just saying, hey, give me a letter if I gave over $250. It's saying, be able to determine what is the accumulation of all that I gave for this year. What's that accumulation? So I might have given $250 in January, $1,000 in February, $2,000 in March, and $10,000 in April, and so forth and so on. So I, as a donor, would want to know, hey, can you give me a letter to show what I gave you this year? I might not have keeping track. Now, listen, if I've given $100,000, I know where I give. But if I have it like that, I might not be keeping track. but I might want that letter, and I might expect that letter from all of my nonprofits that I give to at the end of the year so that I can report the appropriate amount on my tax returns. Now, let me tell you why that is probably more important, even because again, remember the IRS says, hey, everything above $250, you need to be able to show us record-wise, and they have different things that you need to keep track of when it comes to the donors that give that amount to you. Now, but more than that, more than having, again, your exemption status pulled, maybe not more important than this, but it can be almost like the same thing. You might have a donor that is sustaining you. That person or those individuals or that family is giving you $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and if you can't produce a letter to attest that they gave so much this year, you might lose that donor. So those are big donations. And again, I'm being drastic with it, but it could be several individuals who give $1,000. So you can have 1,000 donors that give $1,000 in a given year. If you're not able to produce letters for those 1,000 donors consistently, that's $1 million, right? So you want to, as a nonprofit, always keep track, keep record. Just get in the practice of it. We have different things out here that you can use donation-wise, Square, Clover, PayPal, all of these systems that can track donors. They can track these endowers, they can track these contributors, such that you can run reports at the end of a given year, and if you have all of the necessary information for the donor on that report, you don't necessarily have to go back to May and say, I wonder how many times Angelina Jolie gave to us, or how many times, Morgan Freeman gave to us, you don't have to do, you can say, okay, let me run a report for, Oprah Winfrey, okay, we see the report for Oprah Winfrey, okay, it looks like for the whole year, she gave $10 million. Let's run a report for, shucks, I'm trying to think of another dignitary. Let's say, rest in peace, Colin Powell. So run a report for Colin Powell, and Colin Powell, he gave $5 million. So you have those different, functionalities with these different systems you can use. All I'm saying, and what we're imploring upon you, is make sure you keep a list, log something that tracks the donors that donate significant amounts in a given